Tonight, a moment etched in time on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica.
Habemus Papam.
The first American hoisted to the helm of the Catholic Church.
La pace sia con tutti voi.
What those closest to him are saying about when he found his calling.
We used to tease him, "You're going to be the Pope one day. Ha ha."
And where Canadian Catholics are pinning their hopes.
Seems to be good timing, right? Now we'll have two, hopefully, opposing loud American voices.
The devastating account of loss and destruction from a major wildfire in Newfoundland.
It's not a town anymore. It's a black hole.
Plus, what's in the new cross-Atlantic trade deal to soften the U.S. tariff blow? And honoring the Canadian veterans behind a momentous victory.
I am not a hero. I'm a simple sailor.
Marking 80 years since the end of the Second World War.
Let us pray for peace in Europe and across the world.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. Dawn is about to break in Vatican City on the first full day of Leo XIV's papacy, who emerged from the conclave as the 267th pontiff to a giant roar of jubilation. The moment tens of thousands in St. Peter's Square were waiting for, a choice that surprised the world. The first American pope in the Catholic Church's 2,000-year history. CTV's Genevieve Beauchemin was there and leads us off tonight.
The sound of bells sent thousands running from the streets of Rome.
What do you think?
Yes, 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 yes. As to an already packed St. Peter's Square. Tens of thousands there watched a family of seagulls perch near the chimney as white smoke rose from the Sistine Chapel.
Unbelievable, yes.
All gathered here from around the world to watch this moment in history.
Habemus Papam.
We have a pope, said the senior cardinal deacon. Cardinal Robert Francis Prevost, who has taken the name Leo XIV, emerged on the central loggia of St. Peter's Basilica.
Sancti Apostoli Petrus et Paulus.
Peace be with all of you were his first words as he called for the world to build bridges, and he also recited an Ave Maria.
Forum Apostolorum Petri et Pauli et omnium sanctorum.
The faithful and the world now analyzing his speech and past to determine in what direction he will lead the church. Leo XIV is a 69-year-old American born in Chicago, Illinois, to Italian and French parents. He spent years as a missionary in Peru and becomes the first pope from the Augustinian order, the first American.
Cardinals saw in Leo XIV, this man, newly elected pope, someone who's going to continue the legacy of Pope Francis and at the same time give it a new face.
Et Spiritus Sancti descendat super vos et
His name was not among those seen as frontrunners entering the conclave.
Is it actually an American pope?
It's actually an American pope.
Where's he from?
He's from Illinois.
I think that's awesome. It's a great way. I mean, there's a lot going on in our country right now, but I think it's really cool.
Quella mattina del giorno di Pasqua.
An American pope from a military and economic superpower was thought unthinkable to many analysts.
So?
Viva Papa!
And his election on the fourth round of voting after black smoke had emerged twice from the chimney came faster than expected.
And the Osservatore Romano has already put out a special edition in honor of the Pope. There will also be celebrations here in days to come and a mass and moments of reflection about the future. Omar.
Such a historic day. All right, Genevieve, thank you. We are also learning more tonight about the human side of the new Pope. He likes to play tennis, is said to be a speedy texter, and a White Sox fan. And according to his brother John, always knew he would devote his life to the church.
Some people play school or some people play army. He played priest and we had to go to mass.
Born in Chicago 69 years ago, Robert Prevost was the youngest of three boys. His other brother Lou today overjoyed.
He was elected. I got up immediately, got dressed, dancing around like an idiot, just because it's like incredible.
To his friends, he was simply known as Bob, graduating with a bachelor's degree in math in 1977, and in 2023 made cardinal by Pope Francis, who gave him a prominent role at the Vatican, heading the office that vets nominations for bishops around the world.
The bishop is not supposed to be a little prince sitting in his kingdom, but rather called authentically to be humble, to be close to the people he serves.
And that's why he admired his predecessor, saying this about Pope Francis the same year he was elected Pope in 2013.
He's a man who, on the one hand, is very simple and very profound in his faith, but he's a hard worker, and he knows, I think, what's ahead of him.
What people are now saying of him, now that he's in a position those closest to him mused about decades ago.
We used to, tease him, you're going to be the Pope one day, ha ha.
And joining me now from Vatican City is Neil McCarthy from the Archdiocese in Toronto. Neil, I can only imagine the jubilation you experienced when you saw the white smoke emerging from that chimney earlier today. Describe the moment and how surprised you were that the Cardinals chose an American.
To be part of history, what a blessing and incredible experience it was to see the white smoke. And then when the Pope came out, yeah, a little bit of surprise where we were all trying to figure out who exactly that is there. But it's a divine inspired choice and selection. We believe that not just the Cardinals involved in that, but God himself. And so to have someone that is maybe a bit of a surprise, but a North American Pope, an American Pope, is a real blessing for us and for the entire world.
Pope Leo today emphasized unity. He emphasized building bridges and compassion at a time when the U.S. is adopting a more confrontational foreign policy. As pontiff, but also as an American, how much of his soft power could he use to influence Donald Trump?
Well, the Pope is an ambassador of peace. He's somebody who will probably be even moral conscience for the President of the United States and for other world leaders, a good reminding us of where our priorities should lie, the talking about the church as a field hospital, and also as a government, how are we reaching out to the marginalized and those who are feeling isolated as well. So I don't think he'll be afraid to disagree with the president, but it's part of his job to sort of speak his truth as he sees it and not worry about the political consequences. He's not a political figure, he's a religious one.
All right, Neil, thank you for being with us tonight. As Cardinal, Pope Leo wasn't afraid to criticize the Trump administration's treatment of migrants, though that did not stop the U.S. president from praising this election.
They have already spoken to us, and we'll see what happens. But again, to have the Pope from the United States of America, that's a great honor.
The Prime Minister also reacted to the news, one of more than 10 million Catholics in this country celebrating the new Pope. CTV's Heather Wright on what they are looking for in the new leader.
On a crisp spring afternoon, the Catholic faithful came here to St. Michael's Cathedral in downtown Toronto to pray and reflect.
I couldn't stop my tears when I saw the white smoke.
Just waiting on the edge of our seats for the new Pope, and it's just so great.
In a statement, Prime Minister Mark Carney congratulated the new Pope, writing, "Canadians offer best wishes to His Holiness Pope Leo XIV as he begins his papacy. At a time of profound global challenges, may his pontificate be marked by wisdom, discernment, a deep commitment to common good, and dignity of all." In the weeks leading up to conclave, there had been much debate about whether the Cardinals would choose a pope that would carry on the legacy of Pope Francis or one who would chart a more traditional path. Pope Leo had a close relationship with his predecessor, and many believe he will continue with progressivism while also providing a different type of American voice.
Hopefully can provide a little bit of a different side of an American voice than we're used to seeing in the news lately.
Cardinals have previously declined to choose an American pope, perhaps wary of giving religious power to a global superpower. And so the choice of Cardinal Robert Prevost came as a surprise to some, but a good one.
It's amazing. It's really a wonderful testimony that the men in charge, the electors, they went beyond sort of political considerations of American superpower status, simply to find the best man available.
And many people we spoke with today say they were happy this was a short conclave, hoping that means there was a broad consensus among the cardinals on who is best to lead the Catholic Church going forward. Heather Wright, CTV News, Toronto.
Turning now to Donald Trump's first trade deal since launching his global trade war. The final details of the economic pact with the UK are still in the works, but both sides are celebrating it as a win tonight. CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbin on what it could mean for Canada.
After declaring a trade war with the world,
it just seemed like a natural deal, but
President Donald Trump announcing he has a framework for a deal with Britain.
With this deal, the UK joins the United States in affirming that reciprocity and fairness is an essential and vital principle of international trade.
Completely historic.
On the other end of the line in the Oval Office, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who visited back in February armed with charm and an invite from King Charles for a state visit, calling their agreement today on the anniversary of D-Day historic.
So to be able to announce this great deal on the same day, 80 years forward, with the UK and the US standing side by side, I think is incredibly important and makes this truly historic.
The 10% tariffs on British imports will stay, but duties on steel, aluminum and cars rolled back. In return, the UK is opening access to American beef, poultry and ethanol. London also committed to buy $10 billion worth of Boeing planes. The deal not quite done, but hailed as a success.
The final details are being written up in the coming weeks.
The president seems willing to lower some tariffs, but not drop them completely, and that bodes well for Canada.
As the UK deal shows us today, he seems to be interested in quick bilateral deals. And so we do have USMCA. If it's not being respected and if it could be fully renegotiated in a year, perhaps we can get a deal where he basically respects those tenants, reduces tariffs on auto and steel and aluminum.
President Trump promoted his UK deal as the first of many as U.S. officials head to Switzerland to begin talks with China. Omar?
All right, Joy Malbin in Washington tonight. The U.S., Britain and the Allies, including Canada, are marking 80 years since Victory in Europe Day, the end of the Second World War. CTV's Abigail Bean looks at how veterans are being honored at home and abroad.
I wanted to know the importance of this day for you.
Every day is important for me. I'm living. I'm 102 right now.
Warrant Officer Roland Lalonde helped in the liberation of the Netherlands from Nazi occupation.
It always brings a memory of the service. It always comes back at some time or another. But I had a good life.
80 years after the Allied victory in Europe, communities across the country remember Canadians' sacrifice.
A lot of the guys I joined up with passed away now.
I am not a hero. I'm a simple sailor, and I was 18 years old when I went to sea.
80 years ago, when Canada was a consequential nation, where we contributed mightily to the Allied victory.
We honor brave Canadians and Allied troops who answered the call to fight.
This Ottawa ceremony paid tribute not just to Victory in Europe Day, but the Dutch liberation.
You are free because of them.
Where Canada's pivotal role has not been forgotten.
My father was 4 years old when he was liberated, and he told me he was waving a little flag and he was so excited, and they got chocolates. They still think Canadian chocolate is the best in the world.
While in London, the royal family marked the milestone.
Hostilities will end officially at 1 minute after midnight tonight, Tuesday, the 8th of May.
Along with Winston Churchill's great-great-grandson.
Let us pray for peace in Europe and across the world.
45,000 Canadians were killed in the Second World War, but of the 1 million more who served and returned home, only a few thousand are still alive today to share their stories. Abigail Bean, CTV News, Ottawa.
And later in the show, we'll hear from a 103-year-old Canadian veteran who calls himself one of the lucky ones. Hostilities ramped up today between nuclear-armed neighbors India and Pakistan. India says it intercepted Pakistani attempts to hit its military targets, while Islamabad claims it shot down drones that violated its airspace and killed dozens of Indian soldiers along the border, dividing the disputed Kashmir region. World leaders are urging both countries to show restraint as tensions have soared since last month's deadly militant attack in Kashmir. Meantime, Russia and Ukraine are accusing each other of breaking a 72-hour ceasefire called by Vladimir Putin. Ukraine accused Russia of multiple attacks, and Russia said it will mirror the strikes it claims are coming from Ukraine. Coming up, the surprising finding of a new study on an alleged mystery brain disease in New Brunswick. Plus, new details on the man charged with stalking Jennifer Aniston. A son is sharing a devastating story of loss and close calls involving his elderly parents and sister after a wildfire raged across two small communities in eastern Newfoundland.
They lost everything. They only got it with the clothes on their back, and only for my sister, they wouldn't have made it out. And they need help in all ways for walking and helping, getting in the cars and that. And only for my sister, they wouldn't have got out.
A wildfire in Newfoundland's Avalon Peninsula destroyed at least 30 structures, including 15 homes and as many sheds. Favorable weather has helped firefighters and water bombers contain the flames. Evacuation orders were issued and a state of emergency was declared. In West Edmonton, a dangerous wildfire has doubled in size, with evacuation orders and alerts still being enforced. Officials also say a grass fire that forced them to shut down a highway was caused by human activity, though fire crews don't know exactly how it started. They've been trying to put out the flames since Tuesday. Hot, dry, and windy conditions across Alberta are increasing the risk of wildfires. An alleged Canadian medical mystery has taken a twist, with a new study skeptical of the existence of a so-called brain disease hundreds in New Brunswick say they suffer from. Here's CTV's Sarah Plowman on the findings and those questioning it.
A new study that found there's no mystery brain disease in New Brunswick won't stymie the province's probe for answers.
We need to continue to explore what's making people sick.
Reaction to a study published in JAMA Neurology that concluded there's no support for the existence of a mystery brain disease, and there's strong evidence against an environmental toxin causing patients' symptoms. Researchers reevaluated 25 patients diagnosed with a so-called neurological syndrome of unknown cause, and found they all had well-known conditions such as Alzheimer's, cancer, or head injuries.
We have what we believe here now is a case of misdiagnosis that has evolved to misinformation.
The study highlighted how patients had a broad range of very different diseases.
It's highly unlikely, or if not impossible, that a single environmental factor then could have created this syndrome that has been touted to be due to environmental toxins.
It comes as New Brunswick's Public Health reviews 222 patient files to dive into concerns about elevated levels of environmental substances found in patients. The neurologist who first diagnosed patients with an unknown illness disagrees with the study, saying in part that he has many questions regarding the methods and the content, including cases never evaluated by us or that might not have been part of this cluster.
I think it's inaccurate. I think it's false. And I think it's very, very harmful to the patients.
Stacey Quigley-Cormier's stepdaughter is one of Dr. Morero's youngest patients.
It's not that they're sick, like this study talks about. It's why. Why do they have rare antibodies? Why are multiple people in multiple families sick?
The study urges patients to get a second opinion, noting it appears few sought this. Quigley-Cormier says her stepdaughter did seek a second opinion, but thought that it was an incomplete diagnosis. Sarah Plowman, CTV News, Fredericton.
The man accused of crashing his car through Jennifer Aniston's front gate will have his mental health assessed to determine whether he's competent to face charges.
You're not to have any contact with Jennifer Aniston under any conditions.
48-year-old Jimmy Wayne Carwile is charged with felony stalking and vandalism. He appeared shirtless in an LA courtroom. Prosecutors say he's been harassing Aniston with a flood of messages for 2 years before ramming into the gate of her house on Monday. The suspect remains in jail. Still ahead, a 103-year-old veteran reflects on the stories of triumph, sacrifice, and the bonds of friendship. As the world looks back at 80 years since the end of the Second World War, we spoke with a Canadian veteran who took part in D-Day, a key turning point in the war that put the Allies on a clear path to victory over the Nazis. Here's CTV's Alex Karpa.
In Holland, this was we put a new set of tracks.
Veteran Len Van Roon looks back on his time during the Second World War. He was only 20 years old when he was sent to Europe.
Just darn lucky to be here. I'm one of the fortunate ones.
Van Roon, who is now 103 years old, was among the tens of thousands of soldiers who stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. He landed with his unit, the 19th Field Artillery Regiment, on Juno Beach in the first wave on D-Day and fought with them through France, Belgium, and Holland.
This is a record of the letters I sent.
During his time overseas, he wrote over 1,100 letters to his wife Verna and kept every single one.
The Army was very good about transporting that stuff. You put it in the command post and it got back to Canada. That was an important thing, and they did a good job.
Van Roon attended a Victory in Europe Day celebration at the Manitoba Legislature. He says he was one of the fortunate ones. He survived and was able to go home to his family, but many weren't as lucky, including many of his friends. As he celebrates the 80th anniversary, he is sharing one simple message.
They have to appreciate all the wonderful facilities we have now and opportunities that we have now. So, don't blow it.
More than 1 million Canadians served during the Second World War, both here at home and around the world. Over 45,000 were killed and around 55,000 were wounded. Van Roon says there isn't a day that goes by where he doesn't remember his friends who sacrificed their lives for freedom and hopes these atrocities never happen again. Alex Karpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Still ahead, revisiting the moment that made history. The last time the world had a Pope Leo was more than a century ago. Today's world, far different. One for the new pontiff to help navigate as he steers a global church of 1.4 billion into a new era. Good night.
La pace sia con tutti voi.